Welcome to a Farmers Breakfast Show right here from County 034. Your host Noah Nasiali Kadima. Hapa tumefika tena, baridi mingi sana. Thank you for tuning in. It's a very interesting day today because the weather has refused. The weather has refused. It's September now. Again, very interesting. Happy new month as you start this month. What are your goals for this month, for your farm, for your projects, for any agribusiness project that you're doing? Remember that this week we are observing the Africa Climate Week, which is happening in Gabon, and we will be bringing you some highlights about this. We would like you to be able to give us some updates in case you've had any that are actually showing and showcasing what is happening around the world, but most probably in Africa, and see how does that climate discussion going on in Gabon tie in with what we are facing right now. You know, long time we used to grow watermelon. We used to be told if you harvest watermelon in September, it's very hot, then the markets are really good. But this changed because everybody started planting watermelon again. So that is something that we will be discussing today. We'll also be listening in from Kampala, just to get to understand what is the climate status, in the status of climate in Kampala. We'll also talk about something that is making farmers feel a bit uneasy. You know, we have something called kukamua mbegu. So we normally kamua mbegu. Sometimes you've harvested really well, good seeds, and the seeds are very expensive. So what happens most of the time is that farmers go in and generate their own seeds. Now, probably, is it illegal? We'll be talking with someone from Greenpeace Africa who will be telling us more about whether this is illegal, and what farmers can do, and what we can be able to do to face this. It is a very interesting, it's a challenge. It's really challenging for us to have that. Again, this is your host, Noah Nasiali Kadima, a Farmers Breakfast Show right here from County 034, and we are talking about climate and climate and climate. But we want you to tell us what you think about the climate, the discussion about climate going on. You as a farmer, you as someone who is in the farming industry and agriculture industry, what does climate mean to you? You know, this week, earlier on this week, I attended a dinner that was, we'll be sharing some information about this, that was discussing about climate related topics, and not only for agriculture, but also for health, you know. And something that came out very strongly was the fact that we have been discussing about climate and climate and climate, but we've not actualized the findings of this. I remember some time back there was this show that there was this thing that normally happens in high schools called Science Congress, and when I was still there, I had a topic called which was about greenhouse gases, and at that time it was more or less about it was just about, I can say for sure, it was just about having a science Congress topic. I didn't see how I would be able to be deep in this as discussing this quite a number of years later. But now what comes into my mind is the fact that these discussions are already happening. They've been happening for quite some time. If you go to the Food and Agriculture Organization website, FAO, you'll be able to get a lot of details about this. And what does this mean for you as a farmer? What does it, when you talk about climate change, how does that work with you? We are not even talking about climate smart agriculture yet. No, not yet. We just want to find out, is the weather the same as climate? Let me just mention. There's some guys who used to say that, some prominent guy who used to say that you please open the window for the climate to come in. So I don't know if that's what you think of. But anyway, right here, continue following us. This is our Farmers Media, and we want you to connect, learn, and grow. And as I have started, we are going to be discussing about climate change, and not just climate change only, but climate action. What are these things? You know, what are the innovations that are driving climate action in Africa, especially in agriculture? You know, and we, with that in mind, we want to just make sure that as we keep on discussing this, it is something that is beneficial to you as a farmer. So let us know what you think about this, and in the comment section you can actually let us know. So just some of the information that is going on right now at in Gabon about at the Africa Climate Week. It was actually officially opened by the Ali Bongo, the president of Gabon, and one of the things that came out very strongly as he was talking in his speech, he's actually saying that his country's efforts to boost climate action and calling continuous collective efforts. We cannot do this alone. We cannot do this alone. There's something also going on round about the same thing. How do farmers benefit from the financial bit of from the financial bit of climate action? Some of these things that is happening is that we talk about carbon credits, but this carbon credits is only discussed somewhere in boardrooms. But how do farmers get in? So we are actually putting up the link. You'll be able to get the link in the comment section. You can be able to register and be able to get, and as you can see, that is Ali Bongo Ondimba. Hey, that guy, yes, Ali Bongo, who is actually very instrumental in making sure that this is happening. I remember a few years back, he was here in Kenya with our president, and they were actually fighting against ivory, and he's very active in terms of climate-related activities, and you can see him there. I think during the opening session of the Africa Climate Week. And this is not just about Africa Climate Week. This is the route to COP27. This is COP27 is going to be the biggest event in Africa in the next few months. And it's something that you need to be able to ask yourself: how do I, as a farmer, how do I, as someone in the industry, be able to get to that information about how can we improve my activities? How can I be able to change this? So we want to find out what is the impact. So we will be bringing to you some bits of what is happening. But before going on, we will actually go into our traffic update, courtesy of Mathri Route. We have a very interesting on somebody saying that it's been tight, it's been tough. Yep, somebody actually, Nairobi has been a very interesting time, and we are seeing that with courtesy of Mathri Route, as I have mentioned earlier, we are seeing traffic in and around Nairobi coming up fast. So we will start with Nairobi, and then we see other parts of Nairobi. Obviously, Mombasa Road, they're having a challenge. Mombasa Road has always been having challenges, so I don't know how that can be solved. But as you can see, the traffic update that is going on right now, I can say Upper Hill, actually Ngong Road, inbound to Nairobi town. There's some traffic around Upper Hill, Kindaruma Lane, around there. Community is clear. Again, the other side of Nairobi, Langata Road is also jam-packed a bit around Madaraka Estate coming into town. The Nairobi Expressway is expressway, my lovely road. Hiyo hata kama kuna kitu watu walifanya, hiyo walifanya ya maana sana. These days I can leave studio and go for a meeting. Lunga Road around industrial area, a bit jam-packed both ways. Around Likoni, roundabout, we see Jogoo Road is a bit jam-packed around Njiwa, around Makadara. Jogoo Road there, some jam-packed into town inbound. Jogoo Road around City Stadium is also a bit jam-packed. But let us also see the other side and see whether we can be able to get more update. Yes. So yes, and again, we're seeing what's happening Southern Bypass. Somebody's asking what is happening Southern Bypass between Dagoretti and Kikuyu. Over 1 kilometer traffic stands still, Naivasha outbound. The other side is somebody's asking James Mashari, who's the CS of transport. I am writing on behalf of Mombasa Road users, not the expressway route, but the old Mombasa Road. We have waited a bit too long for the road to be repaired and returned to a better state. That's very interesting. We're seeing low visibility around Kikuyu, Limuru kama kawaida. Hey, watu wa Limuru sijui mnafanya mulifanyia nini Mungu. Yes. Thika Road. I don't know whether to tell you guys this or not, but anyway, there's an update. Thika Road outbound speed gun outside Mangu High School. Don't slow down because of the speed gun. Speed kills. So make sure that you observe the traffic regulations, the speed limits on all our roads. Again, just to bring out the issue about, so if you have any information about the traffic update in and around the southern bypass, Dagoretti to Kikuyu, let us know also, share with us. Again, this is another morning, very interesting day. Again, Muthaiga towards Pangani tunnel, traffic still kama kawaida hapo. That is very normal, very normal. Mombasa Road at Green Park at River towards Simba Cement, ni teke both lanes in and out of Nairobi. We are seeing some people actually asking the new governor, they've been sworn in, yes, Governor of Nairobi, Sakaja Johnson, saying that it's time to bring back transportation equality to Nairobi for the safety and benefit of pedestrians and cyclists. So you come out of town. Now let us look for to check if there's traffic outside Nairobi town. And outside Nairobi town, let us look at Mlolongo Mombasa Road is clear, kama kawaida. The expressway has helped so much. Let us look at some traffic updates. Machakos hakuna traffic, hakunanga traffic. Let us look at Mombasa town. Let us know if there's any traffic that you are seeing. Technically, most areas apart from the major towns, there is very clear. Mombasa, kama kawaida, just a bit of traffic around Kongowea. Yes, Nyali Road, there's traffic, as well as on the way from yes, a bit of traffic in and out. That's Links Road, kawaida. This time you get some heavy traffic. If you want the other side, Ronalngara around Mombasa town, a little bit of traffic just around the traffic and roundabouts. Thank you very much. So we'll be taking a short break, and we will come back. When we come back, we'll be able to just now discuss more as we look for somebody from Uganda, and we'll also be giving you some updates in the course of this show about Africa Climate Week. This is Afarmers Breakfast Show.
Eggplant is an elongated shaped and dark purple fruit, and its leaves are large, ovate and slightly lobed. Eggplant is a perennial crop but grown commercially as annual. Eggplant grows best in well-drained sandy loam or loam soil. The soil pH should be between 5.8 and 6.5 for best growth. Eggplant requires a regular watering and steadily warm growing conditions.
Mahindi yamekuwa chakula kikuu katika sehemu nyingi za ulimwengu na jumla ya uzalishaji wa mahindi kuliko ile ya ngano au mchele. Mbali na kuwa mahindi ni chakula, pia hutumiwa kutengeneza ethanoli, chakula cha wanyama na bidhaa zingine. Kunayo mahindi ya gume, mahindi ya ganda, yani popcorn, mahindi ya unga na mahindi matamu. Mahindi yanalimwa sana kote ulimwenguni na kiwango kikubwa cha mahindi hutolewa kila mwaka kuliko nafaka nyingine yoyote. Shamba la mahindi linaweza kutayarishwa kwa kutumia njia za kawaida au za kilimo cha uhifadhi. Kilimo cha kuhifadhi ni pamoja na kunyunyizia dawa za kuulia wadudu zilizopendekezwa na wataalamu wa kilimo. Unaweza kutumia trekta au njia ya mikono kufanya kilimo cha mahindi. Ni muhimu kuandaa ardhi mapema ya kutosha kuruhusu magugu kukauka na kuoza kabla ya kupanda.
Welcome back to Farmers Breakfast Show right here from County 034, right here in studio. We are talking about weather. Kuna baridi leo nimevaa jacket ingine mzito nikikuja kazini. But what I was saying, what I keep on asking myself is, do farmers, do we understand the climate activities, climate action, all these discussions that are there, you know, farming this, farming that, do this, do this. Do farmers understand what is happening? I'm an story too. You know, I sometimes ask myself whether it is really true that farmers understand what is happening, or it is just we have decided that this has to happen, you know. And so just to as a way of just to recap what we are discussing right here, is we are discussing about climate action, you know, and in a short while we'll be talking about weather, the weather updates and stuff like that. But in November, the world will be actually going to Egypt. The world will be in Egypt for the United Nations Climate Change Conference or better abbreviated COP27. It's the 5th time an African country is actually hosting this. But the thing is, are Africans, especially African farmers, benefiting from the financial gain of this climate change, climate action fight? Who is supposed to give farmers this information? How do farmers benefit from this? Because yes, agriculture is a major contributor. A major contributor, I mean, without a doubt, to the degradation of the climate. But at the same time, farmers, especially African farmers, or better, the farmers of the southern regions, are able to contribute a big chunk, a big percentage in making sure that this is a success story. So, before the United Nations said that, you know, this is going to happen in Egypt, they also said, why don't we do something in Africa first? So we have the Africa Climate Week happening. It started running from 29th. It's going to end on 2nd of September. And what it's going to focus on is actually the ambitions, innovations, and partnerships that are driving climate action in Africa. But on the flip side, we also have something very interesting, because what Africa Climate Week aims to achieve is actually to explore the possibilities and transformative change and showcase solutions and lessons learned on the continent. But this continent is still vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, because we're seeing drought, we're seeing floods, as much as we also see these floods across the world. When the floods hit us, they hit us so hard. They hit us so hard, you know. And so my question comes in is that we have a lot of science going on around, but what we're not seeing is how are farmers, African farmers, benefiting from this financial gain that is actually going out. We have carbon credits going on. We have, yes, new fertilizers, new chemicals, and all those things. But all that cannot support farmers unless the farmers themselves have something that they can actually say, I am gaining by doing this. And that becomes a motivating factor to farmers to say, how can we be able to adopt to climate smart agriculture? Yes, it is for their benefit, without a doubt. Yes, it is for their benefit. But at the end of the day, it's also helping contribute in Africa for all that, you know. So let us just have this discussion. As we are discussing this, we'll be talking to someone from Greenpeace Africa who will be telling us some bits about the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, and that is something that we want to discuss, because it is touching on you as a farmer or me as a farmer about these seed aspects, you know. And before we bring them on board, there's something that is going on that I say is very interesting. We have to ask ourselves hard questions. Is this right for us? Can we be able to do it different? Can we be able to change how we are using our farms to be able to change the fact that we have been told world over that yes, agriculture is playing a very big role in actually making sure that the climate around the world is actually is being affected negatively because of agricultural activities. But it's because some of these innovations that come to us, we don't understand them. We've not used them before. You find like in the when I say traditional, I don't mean we have to go back into the traditional, but we ask ourselves, can we be able to adapt to these new technologies, new machinery, mechanization, but as we still conserve our own? Is it possible? I think it is very possible, and that is one of the reasons why we will be talking to someone from Greenpeace Africa, who will be telling us a little bit more about this particular seed and Varieties Act. And in simplicity, this particular act is a very interesting act, because what it does is that it is trying to limit us a bit, especially as farmers. It's limiting us in getting to understand better. We don't know what this is all about, and I'll be giving you, and we'll be sharing some bits about this in a short while, about what this seed act in Kenya is all about, what it's doing, whether it is whether it is something that is beneficial or not. We'll be discussing that in a short while. What is it especially, and as we are discussing this, please kindly in the comment section just let us know how you ever, you will not be jailed, don't worry. Mimi nimeshaweka mbegu. Yes, I have I have done that in the past, because sometimes seed is very expensive. Sometimes the harvest is really good and you don't get that particular seed again in the market. So what is this particular thing? So we will be talking to Greenpeace Africa about this in a short while. But before that, we are going to have we will actually have something here, a traffic update that we would like to share with you of what is happening across the country in terms of weather. We have, I don't know if you have the right slide there. Yes, I think we'll be getting the right one in a short while. But before that, let us just go back into discussing, because somebody just somebody has sent me a message and asked me what is the Seed Act. This Seed Act is a very interesting thing. I'll ask our producer to look for the image that has the traffic update. As she does that, we want to see what is this Seed Act. What is this particular Seed Act that we are actually talking about? Is it something that farmers can be able to understand or not? So before the weather update, so I think we can just remove the weather update first as we look for the right image. If you look at that particular bit, I'm actually being told we need to go for a short break. So we'll be going for a short break, and then when we come back, we will be able to have the weather update as we get our guest. But just yes, so we'll be taking a short break right now, and then we come back and talk about this Seed Act, as well as what this means for farmers. Fantastic. Welcome back to Afarmers Breakfast Show right here. And we today we're talking about innovations driving climate action in Africa. But also, as we discuss this, we also want to see what are these things that are actually showing us that the African governments are not pro these changes. You know, so one of the things that we will be talking about is actually the Seed Act, the Seed and Plant Varieties Act that we have been seeing that. But before that, let us go and get our traffic update in a few minutes. Sorry, not traffic, but weather. Ibaridi kenyewe, ibaridi imenifanya nimeanza kuongea different. Yeah, so as we get this, our traffic, our weather forecast, we have the image up there for those who are able to see. And we see that the weather has changed. This is not the weather we were used to a while back. September now was very hot. I remember right now was very good time to sell watermelons. And if you didn't have watermelons at this time, then you are not selling anything. And anyway, the weather, today's weather across the country, we are seeing Nairobi cloudy, sunny. I don't know if the sun is, I don't know, I'm not sure. Anyway, but temperatures of 13 degrees centigrade highs and lows of 24. Mombasa 21, a bit warm, and lows of 21 and highs of 29. Kisumu, we have some rains, some showers, sunny intervals as well, lows of 18 and highs of 27. We have Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 12, rains and sunny intervals as well. Nyeri, kama kawaida, cloudy and some sunny intervals. I don't understand how we say cloudy and sunny intervals. Anyway, highs of 23 and lows of 12 degrees. Lamu, quite warm, 23 degrees centigrade lows and highs of 28. We see Kericho, rains and sunny intervals, lows of 12 degrees and highs of 22. And in Meru, uko nasikia iyo baridi. If you are working for the county, lazima iyo baridi na kufikia. Here there's some very major changes in the county government there. And then we have minimum lows of 14 and highs of 24. In Makindu, we have sunny intervals, brilliant. Lodo as well, Garissa, Malindi, Voi. Wajir, we have sunny intervals of minimum of lows of 21 and highs of 34. So thank you very much for that. So that is the weather. Keep warm wherever you are. I don't know what has happened, but this is again the effects of climate change. This is the effect of climate change. So as we go back to the second segment of this and discussing about the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, I just want to read straight from the kenyalaw.org what this is. It is an act of parliament to confer power to regulate transaction in seeds, including provisions for the testing and certification of seed, which is okay, for the establishment of an index of names and of plant varieties, hiyo hatujakata, to empower the imposition and restriction on the introduction of new varieties, to control the importation of seeds, good, to authorize measures to prevent injurious cross-pollination, to provide for the grant of proprietary rights to persons breeding and discovering, developing new varieties, to establish a national center for plant genetic. That is fine. But there's a part of this that we do not want to say it is okay. So, what is this part of this act that we are questioning? This is the prohibiting of Kenyan smallholder farmers from using indigenous seeds to grow food to feed their families. Imagine. So indigenous seeds have been used by farmers since time immemorial to grow food and preserve agricultural diversity. Unasikia kuna ile managu kali, ile suta, ile kali, ile ukikula unasikia tumbo ina shake kidogo. That one now we're being told it is wrong. Actually, what this act does, it prohibits farmers from sharing, exchanging, or selling uncertified and unregistered seeds. This is the punishment: 2 years in prison, or a fine of up to 1 million, or both. Yani ukishare mingi, or both. Kenya's government should amend these punitive laws and allow the sale, exchange, and sharing of indigenous seeds. Let us know if that is something that you think can be done. So what we will be doing right now is that we will get in touch with Helen, who she will tell us more about what she does and who she is. And as we do this, let us hear, share with us also what you think. So let us see if we can be able to get Helen on the phone. Let us see if we can be able to get Helen on the phone, and she can tell us a little bit more about who she is. And good morning, Helen. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
This is Noah from Afarmers Media.
Hi, Noah.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yes, thank you for sparing time for us this morning. Yes, and we'd just like to know a little bit more about who you are. Probably you can introduce yourself, and then we are discussing the Seeds and Plant Varieties Act and see how best we can be able to support farmers, and how what this act means to smallholder farmers.
Thank you, Noah. So my name is Helen Kahasodena, and I'm the Communication and Story Manager for Greenpeace Africa. Greenpeace is an non-governmental environmental organization that works for environmental justice. So we deal with issues such as climate change, sustainable farming and food systems, and protecting the oceans and the forest.
Mm-hmm.
So if maybe to talk a little bit about the City Sovereign Campaign. So there's the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, Cap 326, that came into being in 2012, and it's basically a law that is meant to govern and regulate the seed sector in Kenya. This law, however, bars farmers from sharing or selling seeds that have not been certified or registered.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to which farmers who are found to be or committing an offense
Mm-hmm.
by using or sharing or selling their own seeds or indigenous seeds
Mm-hmm.
are liable to a fine of up to 1 million or imprisonment for up to 2 years. And when you look at such a law, it's very impunitive, especially in a country where most of the farmers do use indigenous seeds and have been using indigenous seeds since time immemorial. So when we did our research, we found that this law, there was no public participation, and most of the farmers actually do not know that this law exists. So we took it upon ourselves to run a campaign, and the main aim is to ask the government to amend this punitive law and allow farmers, to use their own seeds.
Let me ask you, Ellen, why do you think the government decided to bring this ban?
Well, I'm not very sure about that, and that is one of the things that is really puzzling, because you cannot bring laws that infringe on your own farmers. And when you're passing such a law, you should also be looking at both sides of the coin, because this law is going to negatively impact our farmers. It's going to be very expensive for farmers to keep on going to the aggregate to actually buy these seeds. And that's a big question that we have on our minds, that why would a same government pass such a law that infringe on its farmers' right when it's the same farmers that feed the country?
Very interesting. And when you talk about these seeds, what are some of these seeds? Because it's interesting that sometimes we can say these are seeds from other companies and all that, but which seeds are these that we are talking about?
So when you talk about indigenous seeds, there are quite a variety. If I could give you maybe an example of the vegetables, the indigenous vegetable, what people commonly refer as kienyeji. So you have your tereres, your managus, but also it doesn't stop there. We even have farmers, like if you go to the Kamba community, they have the Kamba maize seed, which is acclimatized to the geographical and weather patterns of Ukambani. For instance, Ukambani doesn't experience a lot of rainfall. So because this seed has been there for many generations, it's acclimatized. So even when it doesn't rain as much, they are still able to harvest. So there are different varieties. You'll have millet, sorghum. So you have the one that are registered, certified, the one that defines the agrobit. But when you go to the local communities, they have seed banks, and these seed banks are where they store these seeds. And that knowledge has been passed. Like you'll find mostly older women will sit with the younger generation and tell them this seed should be planted during this kind of season, such kind of knowledge which has been passed down. And this is part of our culture. So there are a variety of them, and you have beans, you have maize, you have millet, you have even sweet potatoes. But yeah, a lot of varieties which are still being kept in those seed banks. And that's why it's very, I don't even have a word for it, for the government to say, now, when you want to sell or share, you have to, register these seeds. Because indigenous seeds, no one owns indigenous seeds. So you can't go to the government, to KEFIs, because that is where they're supposed to do the registration, and say, I want to register managu or the Kamba maize seed. It doesn't belong to anyone, and that's why it's all absurd, because it belongs to the community. And seeds, as it may be, it's the one single unit that you cannot miss when you want to plant. If you don't have a seed, you basically don't have food. You can't plant anything, so you can't really say you have to register these seeds.
So interesting. When I'm hearing you speak, it is something that the smallholder farmers have a very important role in fighting hunger. And now, in this campaign, how are farmers coming in to also participate in this campaign?
So actually, the farmers are the people who feed us, like you just said. So in this campaign, the farmers are the people who are actually going to be at the forefront of asking the government to amend the seed law. It's not just about Greenpeace. It's not just about me and you. It's about the rest of the country. It's about food security of the country. And like I said, farmers, smallholder farmers, provide up to 70% of what is consumed in the country. So in May and June, we actually, visited farmers in 4 counties just to get to understand, because, sometimes you might think maybe there was public participation. And farmers were shocked. They're like, we do not know about this law. This is something that we have been doing and we will still do. So we're actually shocked. And farmers want to take action. And you really can't blame them, because, when farmers want to fight back, it means it's something that is really dear to their heart. It's something that is going to affect them and the generations and the entire Kenyan population. Because if you bring a law that will kick farmers out of farming, what does that mean? There will be less food. It means it will be more expensive for us to buy, food. So it just doesn't affect the farmers. It affects everyone. So yes, farmers are fighting back, and Greenpeace will support this fight.
Thank you. Now let me ask you, where is all this stock coming from, and why? Why now?
Okay, so since 2020, 2021, there has been an uproar regarding, certain punitive agricultural laws. So things like the Livestock Bill 2021, the Crops and Potatoes Regulation that came into being in 2019, and this specifically, the Crops Bill barred Kenyans from, keeping bees for commercial purposes unless they are registered. And we did see that there were farmers that were actually being arrested. So we decided to conduct a policy research on Kenyans' agricultural policies and laws that have an impact on smallholder farmers. And in the process of our research, we came across the Seed and Plant Varieties Act. So in essence, as much as the law was passed in 2012, we do not want to wait until smallholders farmers start getting arrested, because the norm has been that the government passes laws, then they remain silent, then later, out of the blues, you see that they come and implement them in full force, and that's where you see farmers are getting arrested. So we don't want to wait until then. We want to act now. We want to petition the government to amend these punitive laws now, before our farmers, start facing huge fines or they get arrested for using, the indigenous seeds.
Thanks, Helen. Now, something else that I wanted to find out is that what we are fighting, in the process of actually fighting Africa, the climate change across sub-Saharan Africa and the world over. How can this use of the indigenous seeds help farmers, smallholder farmers, to preserve this?
I think I mentioned earlier that most of these seeds are acclimatized to the climatic conditions and the geographical conditions of different places. And yeah, you're right that, with the increase of, climate change and the climate crisis unfolding, we've seen a lot of droughts and, sometimes cases of flooding. And when you bring in such laws, then it means if the farmers are not using the indigenous seeds, which are used to those conditions, then there's a problem there, because a lot of the registered seeds, and this is from the farmers, experience, a lot of the registered or certified seeds, when they plant them, they will need to use a lot of water. And if the rains fail, because climate change is real, there's been droughts, like in Kabani, I think in a place called somewhere in Kitu, in Masongaleni, the farmer was telling us it hasn't rained for 2 years. So if it hasn't rained for 2 years and they're telling them to go and buy seeds and come and plant them, the very little water that they would have used to irrigate will not be sufficient to produce food. So they have to deal with climate change, and on top of that, they have to deal with hunger, because now you're forcing them to plant seeds that will need a lot of water, which they don't have, and it's not even, they cannot even control the fact that, climate change is happening. So the government in this instance should be working on how to help farmers mitigate the impact of climate change, other than passing laws that are really absurd, that really do not even encourage people to be farming. So yes, climate change is there. The government is, going in the opposite direction, as opposed to assisting these farmers to be able to mitigate the impacts of climate change and still produce even in the midst of a climate crisis.
Thank you very much, Helen. So just a few questions that I wanted to finalize and just ask. When smallholders come together, they have a force that they can be able to be, somebody can listen to them and things like that, yes? Why are farmers not coming together to be able to fight this? Because talking to some farmers, they do not even know about this seed act. What would your message be to farmers?
So that is the issue right there. Farmers are not aware. Farmers are not aware that this is happening. So from the research that we did, and that is why we're trying to create awareness. The few farmers that are aware are already, coming together and, lobbying the government, and very soon, maybe you'll hear something about it. But the ones that are already aware are coming together and they want to take action. Like I'm telling you, farmers will not take this lying down. Farmers are going to fight back, because, there's a huge chunk of them. But the issue here is that most of them are not aware. Most of them are not aware that this law exists. And that's the same thing that made us to actually act, because this law can remain silent, and then 5, 6, 10 years, who knows? The government will just wake up and start implementing this law, and then farmers will just start getting arrested. And in Kenya, they'll tell you, ignorance is no defense. So you end up in jail for something that you completely were not aware of. And that is one of the thing that we want to do. We want to create awareness. We want to educate the farmers. Then once they have this knowledge, then they can take action, because when they all come together, they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, thank you. Now, as Greenpeace, How do farmers get in touch with you, and what are these specific things that, because there's a lot of things that you're doing, excellent work like the plastics and all that. How can farmers, smallholder farmers or groups of farmers come to be part of Greenpeace?
So first of all, before I even get to that, what we've been doing doing a lot of capacity building with different farmers. Mostly, previously we've worked with 3 counties in Ukambani, Kitui, Machakos, and Makueni. Right now we are also still working with farmers, but across other parts of Kenya as well. They could reach us through maybe our website, but also I could even give you my number. They could call me and we could chat back to them, because I mean maybe our website or email address might not necessarily work for farmers, because most of them might not be able to access an email. But we usually work with them when they're in a group. So we reach out to maybe the leader of the group. We plan, and then we travel and meet the farmers, and then we continue with the engagement. So if it's okay, I could give you my phone number, and
yes,
if there are any farmers who would like to reach us, they could give me a call. So my number is 0717 104 144. I'll repeat, 0717 104 144. So farmers can reach out, and then we will definitely call them back and get more information and see how we can work together.
Good, thank you very much, and we're looking forward to seeing how farmers can be able to get more knowledge, to be able to understand what is happening, in their industry, because the era of farmers just producing without knowing what's happening is long gone, and now farmers have to really know that is happening. So another question that I have before we end is that we are talking about climate smart agriculture right now. What is the role of Greenpeace? Is that a space that you are involved in right now, in sensitizing farmers to adopt to climate smart agriculture practices?
So what we've been pushing mostly is sustainable forms of agriculture. So we realize that with climate change and all that, farmers really have to look for ways of being able to produce even with the conditions that have been changing day in, day out. So we usually, most of the time, capacity build farmers on what we call ecological farming. So ecological farming basically means, farming that does not involve fertilizers, inputs. You really use things like indigenous seeds, you use manure, you use, compost. And in that sense, you're protecting the environment, but also the health of the food that you eat. So in that sense, ecological farming also encourages the use of, agroforestry. So you growing trees with or together with the crops. So that's what we've been really pushing for, and a lot of the farmers have that it really does work, because it's also, other than just being able to sustain them, it's also very affordable when it comes to the input that they have to spend, because they don't have to keep on going to buy fertilizers, pesticides, seeds and all that. They just have to use locally available materials to prevent pests and diseases. So yeah, that is what we've been advocating for as Greenpeace Africa.
Thank you very much, Helen, for sparing some time for us, and we are definitely sure that we are going to be able to link farmers. Again, I'll just repeat for those who missed out the number. It's 0717 104 144 to be able to get in touch with Helen and Greenpeace, so that they can be able to see how farmers, the information that they have, that we can be able to share and grow together. Thank you very much, Helen, for that, and have a brilliant day.
Thank you, Noah, for having me. Bye.
Yes, for those who've been listening, we've been speaking to Helen from Greenpeace, who is actually the communications and story manager, who is able to, who has told us more about the seed and the Plant Varieties Act of 2012 and how punitive it is, and what they're trying to do to make sure that farmers are not actually facing these challenges as well. We will be taking a short break, but before we and when we come back, we will now dig in deeper and see this weather that we're talking about. What is this weather that we're talking about? So we are taking a short break.
Mahindi yamekuwa chakula kikuu katika sehemu nyingi za ulimwengu na jumla ya uzalishaji wa mahindi kuliko ile ya ngano au mchele. Mbali na kuwa mahindi ni chakula, pia hutumiwa kutengeneza ethanoli, chakula cha wanyama na bidhaa zingine. Kunayo mahindi ya gume, mahindi ya ganda, yani popcorn, mahindi ya unga na mahindi matamu. Mahindi yanalimwa sana kote ulimwenguni na kiwango kikubwa cha mahindi hutolewa kila mwaka kuliko nafaka nyingine yoyote. Shamba la mahindi linaweza kutayarishwa kwa kutumia njia za kawaida au za kilimo cha uhifadhi. Kilimo cha kuhifadhi ni pamoja na kunyunyizia dawa za kuulia wadudu zilizopendekezwa na wataalamu wa kilimo. Unaweza kutumia trekta au njia ya mikono kufanya kilimo cha mahindi. Ni muhimu kuandaa ardhi mapema ya kutosha kuruhusu magugu kukauka na kuoza kabla ya kupanda.
Eggplant is an elongated shaped and dark purple fruit, and its leaves are large, ovate, and slightly lobed. Eggplant is a perennial crop but grown commercially as annual. Eggplant grows best in well-drained sandy loam or loam soil. The soil pH should be between 5.8 and 6.5 for best growth. Eggplant requires a regular watering and steadily warm growing conditions.
Papai ni moja ya tunda mashuhuri kwa kiasi kikubwa nchini Kenya. Pia tunda hili linaweza kuwa na faida mbali na afya katika kukuza uchumi wa mkulima wa zao hili. Pia linaweza kuwa chanzo kikubwa cha pesa za kigeni kwa kuuza nje ya nchi. Uzalishaji wa papai nchini Kenya ni kwa kiasi kidogo ukilinganishwa na mahitaji ya watumiaji. Hivyo inahitajika nguvu zaidi katika uzalishaji wa zao hili. Zao hili limeshamiri kote nchini kwa kutoa mavuno bora. Ungana nami niweze kufahamisha bayana na kwa undani kuhusu zao hili la paipai.
Welcome back to Afarmers Breakfast Show right here from County 034. Out of our studios here, we are talking about innovations driving climate action in Africa. And as a recap, we have actually spoken to Helen Denner, who is from Greenpeace, who has actually told us about the Seed and Plant Varieties Act that is really punitive to farmers. We know that some of the seed varieties that we have been enjoying, the indigenous food we popularly known as traditional vegetables, is something that now might go away because now it has to be researched going back to but we are asking, is it possible for this to be not to be a punitive, because we can be able to share healthy seeds and stuff like that, but we are asking you as a farmer, what do you think about the Seed and Plant Varieties Act as we are discussing this? Again, as we continue our discussion, we know that in Gabon something is happening, something major, something huge for Africa is happening, and this is the Africa Climate Week. really embraced really well. It is a huge event for Africa, especially the fact that in the next few months in November we'll be actually having the COP27. The COP27 United Nations Climate Change Conference happening in Egypt, another African country. This is brilliant. This is the 5th time being for it to be held in Africa, to be hosted in Africa. And one of the things that the 3 major things that the Africa Climate Week is addressing is resilience against climate risks, the transition to a low emission economy, and partnerships to solve pressing challenges. Again, I continue to reiterate that this is not something that is you can do it alone. No. Again, as you can see on your screen, that is the Regional Climate Week 2022 in Africa, happening in Africa under the United Nations Climate Change, where it is actually, again, as I said, how can we be able to work together? Because working together opens opportunity to advance climate action and address social inequalities and invest in development that is good for humanity and nature. So again, as we discuss this, the 3 major areas: resilience against climate risks. We know that Africa is exposed to very many risks. Africa is exposed to very many risks, especially climate-related risks. We see droughts happening, we see floods happening, and to be able to mitigate this is proving to be a challenge because it's very expensive as well, just like we see across the world again. So as we look into these discussions that are happening, we'll be joined by somebody who is very passionate to see how this discussion is being taken seriously at local levels, because most of this discussion is at conference levels, top tier conference levels. But how do we break it down? You know, last year at the Glasgow Climate Pact, they agreed at COP26 last year that regional climate weeks to be used as platforms for government and stakeholders to strengthen credible and durable response to climate change. So this is now a result of that happening. And in Africa, in Gabon, having seen what is happening across, which we'll be getting some feedback from those who are watching and following this discussion. One of the things that we want to see is who are these partners? And again, yes, top tier partners. We are seeing UNDP, we are seeing UNEP, we are seeing World Bank Group coming in, we are seeing African Union, Africa Development Bank, which is very key and a huge supporter of farmers. We also see UNECA and UN Gabon happening, going around that. But what we're asking ourselves is, how can that be localized? How can that be localized? We know, so we will be giving you some of the updates directly from Gabon. We will be sharing what the schedule is like for the discussions going on right now in Gabon. And as we discuss this, we want to ask you as a farmer, we want to ask you in the industry, what is happening? What are you doing? What are you doing that is right? What can you benefit? What questions do you have? Do you know what COP27 is? You know, so that is something that we want to continue discussing in this show. But going back to who is working with farmers on this, we will be talking to someone called Robert Mokio, and we'll be calling him in a short while for him to let us know what this means, what COP27 might mean for African farmers. And of importance is the fact that it's not just about producing food. No. It goes into preservation, it goes into our soils, it goes into the quality of our soils. And I've been told that during the mid-morning show, we'll be talking about some of these aspects, especially soil related. That is normally a topic. I don't know why they've not told me to also sit in the show. But as we discuss this, one key thing is, do you as a farmer, do you as a smallholder farmers understand your role in fighting climate change? You know, and from next week we will have a series of a few videos that we'll be sharing with you from some of our partners who will be telling us what is climate smart agriculture. What does it mean for you as a farmer? For me as a smallholder farmer, what does it mean? What can we do differently? What can we do? What can we change in the way we do things so that we can be able to see this? Because we are seeing the weather has really changed, and the weather is changing because of man, and I don't know, when it comes to damage, it's normally not gender-based, but anyway, let's stick with that. Because of man's activities. Man's activities in introducing the quality of the air we breathe in. You know, the other day I was seeing the shells, the different types of shells that are natural and those are not natural. Again, that brings into mind something that's very critical. If I am a farmer, what am I doing wrong? Is over tillage wrong? You know, if I am a farmer, what can I do right? Reducing tillage, use of manure, important, very important thing that we can be able to do. But most importantly, what we ask ourselves is, how can me and you as smallholder farmers be able to benefit from the financial gain that is coming out of these discussions? Because these discussions are not easy. These discussions are blaming agriculture, which without a doubt, yes, agriculture plays a very big role in that. But how can we be able to make sure that farmers are benefiting? And when I talk about benefiting, I want to talk about carbon credits, which I hope we'll be able to have that discussion with Robert Mokio as he joins us to just try and understand how this is really possible. So we will take a short break, a short break, and when we come back, we'll be coming back with Robert Mokio, who will tell us more. Dr. Robert Mokio will tell us more about what he does and what they are actually doing, and to sensitize farmers to adapt to climate smart related activities. This is a Farmers Media. Don't go away.
Amaranthus, or locally known as terere, is a highly nutritious vegetable that is cultivated and consumed as a leafy vegetable in many parts of the world. It's easy to grow, matures fast, as it takes an incredible shorter period than most traditional crops. There are many species of amaranthus, with some green and others red in color. When growing amaranthus, ensure the soil is well drained and rich in phosphorus, and most importantly, ensure the seeds are well distributed to achieve an even spread when establishing a grain amaranthus field. Amaranthus is especially loved for its tender leaves and for their healthy dose of ions, vitamins, and a range of minerals.
Welcome back to Afarmers Breakfast Show right here from Afarmers Media. And as promised, we will be trying to see how this particular discussion that we've been having, how can we be able to have the same discussion but be able to bring in some of the experts who are doing some amazing work. And we will be discussing this with Dr. Robert Mokio, who we are hoping to get in touch in the next few seconds, who will be telling us what is this. Daktari, habari gani? Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Very fine. This is Noah Nasiali from Afarmers Media.
I'm watching live.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for giving us some time, and we wanted to discuss a few things about what is happening in Gabon in relation to the Africa Climate Week, but most importantly, how do we place smallholder farmers in the discussion?
Yeah, the final person who actually suffers from global climate change.
I'm actually being told to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Robert Mwakio. I'm actually an expert in sustainable development, sustainable agriculture, and also urban agriculture is what I major in. And
We are losing you.
regarding climate change. So for all those who follow me, you can get me at, you can just Google Robert Mokio. I've written articles on so many things on agriculture. I hope I can be heard. Huh? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, basically I've introduced myself, Robert Mokio, doctor, and anything sustainable development you can ask me. Also when we're tackling climate change and agriculture, which we'll be discussing today.
Brilliant. So, what does Africa Climate Week hope to achieve?
Well, there's a lot. Where is Africa in terms of climate change? You see, we always lag behind when it comes to discussing climate change, and most of the time during the convention, the United Nations Global Climate Change Conventions, we are normally left behind because the major decision makers are the big countries, they actually called the Big Seven, the major industrialized nations in the world that actually have quite a say in terms of global climate change. But where is Africa? Africa is actually suffering from the impacts of global climate change, despite us not being very industrialized, yeah? Because big countries like China and the United States and India actually emitting a lot of carbon to the atmosphere, and unfortunately we all share the same atmosphere. So countries that do not emit much of the carbon emissions are the ones suffering. So Africa as a whole has to, come up and have a say in terms of policy making. In terms of policy making and policy implementation when it comes to global change, the global climate change, because we are normally behind as a continent in decision making.
Good. So when you talk about Africa being behind decision making, does it mean that our countries and African countries are not willing to be able to have this done right, or what does that specifically mean?
I mean, we are doing well. Like in Africa, remember, we are not really industrialized per se to say that we are contributing a lot to carbon emission, but not that we are not. We are really doing that, especially with impact of urbanization, rapid urbanization, industrialization. So many people are buying cars. We have a lot of emissions from industries around the big cities. Rapid modernization, industrialization is also an impact, but it's not majorly felt to the whole world compared to other countries. But we as an African continent have to put a check, because we are under the Kyoto Protocol that checks each country's emission in terms of carbon emission. So, and that is where we see countries coming to buy they buy carbon reserves from countries in Africa, because some of the emissions we have are very low compared to the big countries' quota in terms of carbon emission. So, as a continent, we are not saying that we are not prone to pollution, because Africa is one of the fastest industrializing continents in the world. We are having that impact of industrialization because we are moving more from agricultural development to industrial, where we are seeing industries coming up left, right, and center, and with that also has an impact on the already spoiled atmosphere that we have. So as Africa, like you asked, we also have a say in maintaining, like Kenya, for example. We also have to maintain our carbon emission because we are under a cap put by the Kyoto Protocol. We are supposed to emit a certain amount of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So we also need to check on all this.
So now, Daktari, let me ask you, I would like us to break the jargon. We because smallholder farmers want to see basically two things. They want to see how are these activities, how do they bring in revenue or help them increase revenue? Because, as a farmer, you're a business person, So there's a discussion that has been going on about carbon credits. What does what do you understand? What do you mean when you talk about carbon credits? What is this carbon credits, and what is its value?
See, what I think I just mentioned it when I was discussing something. I see each country has a credit or a cap that has been put in terms of the emission of carbon dioxide. Yeah. So let's say a country like India cannot be compared to a country like Rwanda, for example, in terms of carbon emission. So each country has a cap. Let's say, I don't have the figures exactly on how much carbon dioxide per milligram that they're supposed to emit. Let's say, for example, let me just put a cubic meter. let's say in all countries are put under 1,000. Yeah? So you'll find a country like India releases about 800, give or take, cubic emission of carbon, and compared to Rwanda that does about 20. So since India will continue its production, so it will end up buying credits in terms of, you see, the difference, the emission cap that has been put here. So that is where the carbon credit definition comes in, where a country like India buys the credit or the cap as which that it is supposed, let's say Rwanda has been put to release an excess of 1,000, but they only release 20. So what India does, this is just an example, India buys, let's say 200 to carbon the emission that it already has. So that is where the carbon credit does. So what happens, people decided to get into business like African farmers are deciding to sell the carbon credits to bigger companies or bigger countries so that they can be able to, do agricultural practices. But that is a bit complex. Maybe we can set aside some day to discuss a whole topic on carbon credit and carbon emission, because it's a bit complex when we are to discuss this issue.
But let me ask you, what is the value of one carbon credit, and how do you, do you need an eighth of an acre, half an acre? Are there specific crops that determine whether you qualify for carbon credits? Is it something that you are paid over a longer time, or is it a short time investment?
You see, I don't know how I can explain it, remember, the carbon. Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to look at how I can be able to explain the emission reduction purchase agreement, of the contracts which countries have to do when it comes to carbon credits, and. What did you ask? Probably I might have not.
No, I was asking because there's this talk about carbon credit, and it is farmers are being told that yes, as much as they also agriculture contributes to the carbon emissions, farmers can be able to participate in this. And so we have things like zero to minimum tillage. We have specific crops that have that count more. Things like cover crops and the rest. So are there? What is the value of this one carbon credit? Some people talk about $30 over 1 year. Is it if I have 30 acres or if I have 2 acres? How does that? I know. We cannot exhaust that now, but just in a summary, and then now we go back into so that we bring that topic and help farmers understand the importance of Africa Climate Week towards the road to COP27.
Okay, I don't have the exact figures because what I really know, what we are talking about is probably in the bigger scale of 1 ton of carbon dioxide sold, in terms of big lump sum sale of carbon credit. So I don't have the total figures going down to the agricultural farmers as per now. That is why I'm saying maybe we might need to discuss this on a later topic, But most, like I remember being during, like I think in the early 2000s or late 2008-9 there, I remember we were working on a project on carbon credits in Coast, where I remember farmers were being encouraged to plant a specific kind of tree, and I can't remember the name of that tree, but for that they were being paid, I think, $50 per acre for the carbon credit, but I do not have official information to this. Probably we can
talk about yes
for a later date.
Okay, so now let me ask something. Africa Climate Week, smallholder farmer, what is the disconnect?
Now, you see, climate change has as the ultimate effect to the common farmer. Like you're seeing the issues that are affecting farmers right now in terms of delayed rainfall pattern or distorted rainfall patterns, which have like here in Kajiado, which actually is experiencing one of the worst drought situations. You're seeing the common farmer is actually suffering so much when it comes to climate change, and what at the end of the day, what this convention, which is basically being funded by the United Nations, is supposed to be helping African farmers to understand the impact of climate change in terms of production. You see, we as Africans are really used to weather-controlled kind of climate agriculture, where we know that we're supposed to plant during the before the rainy season. Rainy season takes this amount of time. We'll be harvesting before this time. So at the end of the day, we are left wondering what is the impact of this climate change to the farmer as we're experiencing right now. So this Botswana Global Adaptation Week, actually we are looking at how farmers can be able to adapt to the major changes in climate change. That's one of the most important things. So they are also looking at something called the National Adaptation Plans, which is being, the branch of United Nations that looks at the climate change is the UNFCCC. I think you know about that.
Yes.
Yes, the one that came up with the Kyoto Protocol.
Yes.
And the Paris Agreement. So remember, we are looking at several things that we look like, especially transformational agriculture. Remember, we've discussed this so many times. Transformational agriculture is how can we be able to adapt to climate change? So we're looking at adaptations such as doing greenhouses, having irrigation, which is very important for farming, because irrigation is the next thing. We cannot continue relying so much on rainfall patterns because we're seeing how much distorted they are. So many guidelines are being formed, and such conventions come up with guidelines and protocols of which will be adopted by member organizations, Kenya being one of them. So at the end of the event, they'll be coming up with guidelines of which is going to help individual countries form formulations or guidelines, which also will be adopted by United Nations Environmental Program. For example, now the common farmer, how are we going to have an impact out of this?
Exactly, because see, the Africa Climate Week is what in Glasgow last year in COP26. What happened is that they say that we need to have regional-based climate weeks, weeks or months prior to the main COP events. But these were protocols that have always been there. This is the fifth one happening in Africa. What has changed? Is it important? Is it that Africa is just filling in the gap of, oh yeah, we need to talk about Africa, and it's the same thing going around. Africans are the ones who are suffering the most when it comes to climate change effects, because the droughts are there. Yes, we also have droughts. We have fires in California and the rest. We saw the other day in Germany there were serious floods, and I mean, as we were discussing this, there's just an article that actually I've actually seen. The developing worlds are really suffering out of this. There's actually some floods happening in Pakistan, and it is actually Antonio Guterres actually has said that these floods are epochal and a monsoon on steroids. Why do we keep on discussing? Is there anything that can be done as we keep on discussing, so that instead of setting new policies and having too many conferences, there's developing, we're actually saying that we are monitoring, these activities are going on right and stuff like that? Can we be able to have that? Because sometimes it feels like, yes, discussions are going on, but it's still always a new discussion and not monitoring and saying, we tried this, it didn't work, we tried that, didn't work. We are not seeing a serious sensitization on growing trees. And if it's trees, is it all trees that are carbon friendly, or are they fruit trees, or what is it?
No, you also have to, you also need to understand that each country in the world is a signatory to such protocols, yeah. And remember, like the Kyoto Protocol, where so many all different countries were told to come up with individual policies that will dictate or will be able to check on the emission of greenhouse gases, yeah, and they put a cap to different countries, and also in terms of funding, which countries will be able to fund, like we look at the developed countries funding to enable these protocols or these laid out policies go down to the ground level. So you have to realize that so many of these countries are, especially in Africa, dictated by some of the outcomes or some of the policies that have been established through such conventions. And remember, okay, you asked about why there are so many of these meetings or conventions all the time. Remember, there are also a lot of money that is there's money out
hiyo jile wanasema tuambieni ukweli, kuna pesa pia, kuna padia mapo.
There's always fundings, like there's a lot of funding that have been put aside to come up with policies. And probably Africans are the best when it comes out to making policies, but very poor implementation. Now the implementation comes in when you start having, like, you're seeing the monsoon that is really causing devastation in Pakistan. But now, don't forget, we also have our own problems. The flood period in Kenya that comes over November, December there, yeah, in places like Budalangi and the likes. Remember, I was just reading briefly before we got into this conversation. 20 years, I mean, if we do not, there was a report that was put, I think, by NASA, I think by NASA, is that if we do not do anything about climate change within 20 years from now, if no policies are done, or if we are not checking, or we are not doing radical measures to check on carbon emission, in 20 years it's going to be catastrophic. We'll be having very bad drought situations. We'll be having severe famine. We'll be having monsoons. We'll be having floods, and it's going to be worse. Now, where does Africa come in? Now, we have our own, we need to come down with our own policies. Like here in Kenya, we are signatories to the United Nations and the UN. We also have UNEP here in Kenya. But you remember, at the end of the day, it's the individual farmer. It's that person who goes to the farm who actually suffers. Now, the country, the government has the mandate to protect the farmers from such radical or such issues that comes out from drought situation. What is happening now, like here in Kenya, where so many places are experiencing very severe drought situation, we have funds that have been put aside. Now, such funds should be channeled to come up with, to look at some of the things that they're discussing in this convention. There are eight strategies that they are looking at here. But one of them is regenerative food production, and another one is looking at water, natural resources, equitability, and inclusivity. Yeah, but also then we also look at lifelong environmental stewardship. Yeah. So under lifelong environmental stewardship, how can an individual person like you and me help in coming up with strategies that will help the country, avert the issue of climate change? Simple. Tell people, plant trees. Yeah. Now that is where the enforcement is a challenge to us, like in Kenya right now. I've seen places like, I've worked in Rwanda for, I think, 2 years. where they teach young children from young age to plant trees. You see, if we can have policies that start even from primary level of education, yeah, to show guys, hey, if we don't do this, this will happen. So these are the strategies that need to be looked at. Train farmers, have conventions, have meetings, tell people this is how you can do it from your individual point of view. Plant trees.
Is it possible to have is it possible to have this information broken down in even local dialects for farmers to see their role? Because I think it's more of a scare to farmers being told, this is agriculture is doing this, and then there are other people who are benefiting. If you look at which is a controversial discussion, but we will be having this discussion, is how much have farmers in Africa benefited over the period that carbon credit has been there? How much money? So that when you sensitize them, you don't sensitize them on carbon credits, but you sensitize them on better soil structures, healthier soils, other alternatives to farming, probably even different food that has different taste buds, So that is a discussion I think we need to have, and we need to have it especially during this time, because this is the Africa Climate Week, but very few farmers even know that there's something called Africa Climate Week. So with that in mind, I want to ask you, Daktari, is it ignorance on the part of smallholder farmers, or they just don't feel part of this and so they don't care about it?
No, I only call it ignorance, right? Because you'll expect some farmers to be out there and most of them will say, me, I'm very busy with my work, my farming schedule, so I don't have time to, probably look at the current news, what's going on. Now it's the work of the government now, or the county government, or the local level, to sensitize people to the ground level. You see, nobody will have known. If you go out there right now and talk to a farmer, tell them, do you know about this Gaborone climate convention that's happening this week? Nobody. I'll tell you, even here in Kenya, if you go to discuss with somebody in the Ministry of Agriculture or related ministry, they'll tell you we do not know about it. Why? Because most people do not even know that this is there. If you go to
Hello?
to what's going on in terms of politics, no. Very important issues such as climate change that affects a farmer. A farmer already knows that there are people who are tasked to follow up and try to see how they can mitigate on issues on climate. So some feel like it is not their mandate. They've not been sensitized to take the mantle, feel that they can be able to be a part of the change that prevents climate change. But now problem is people will leave this to the policy makers. They'll say, okay, fine, watch it. So at the end of the day, the information is not decimated, or it's not taken to the ground level. So basically, we do not have a clear channel of which most of these farmers are given information. Information is key. So if we have forums, or if we have discussions or meetings and through such meetings, and this is why we have such conventions in the world actually. So they're supposed to be broken, to be taken down. The policies are actually supposed to be explained and broken and taken down to the local level. Yeah. So that is why even the carbon credit trading is not, most people do not even understand how it operates. And that's why I was telling you we need to have a day we discuss these carbon credit so that people can be able to understand what it entails. It's not about just money or about work. It's about how you can really improve your soil, how you can have a sustainable agricultural practice.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daktari, for joining us this morning and as we discuss these topics. And we are hoping that this discussion now we will be able to break it a bit even further, because we don't just want it to go away. The Africa. They should have called it Africa Farmers Climate Week. Anyway, Africa Climate Week is ending tomorrow. We want to see what will come out of it. What form of partnerships that we are looking at from Africa, and who else around the world is willing to come and partner with us. Thank you very much, Dr. and we wish you to have a brilliant day. Yes, thank you for those who have been following. That has been Dr. Robert Mwakio, who has been giving us and helping us break some of the jargon in terms of climate discussions, climate change discussions. And as you have heard, it is deeper than just getting financial gain from this, And so we want you as a farmer to be able to learn and engage and ask yourself, what is in store for me? What can I do different? How can I adopt to climate smart agriculture practices? Again, as promised, from next week, we will be sharing some content from our partners to be able to understand what does soil testing and soil analysis have to do with climate smart agriculture. Thank you very much. I'm being told Nazima karibu nizimiwe taa. Hapa we want to thank you for having tuned in and stayed with us from 8 o'clock up to now, and we hope to see you again tomorrow from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock for the Afarmers Breakfast Show. And somebody is coming in after this, the mid-morning show, and they'll be discussing the reclamation of sodic soils. Something that is very, very important, and we have a special guest. And so keep it tuned here at Farmers Media. We want to make sure that as we continue working with you as farmers, as stakeholders in the industry, we can be able to continue connecting, learning, and growing together. This has been your host, Noah Nasiali Kadima. Have a brilliant day.